I guess it'd be a two-part question. But the first part is, I am not phenomena, correct?
Well, what you truly are is not a form, is not an object, is not a perception. You are the perceiver of this perception, like right now you are the hearer of these words. And yet the very hearing of these words and you, the hearer of these words, are not apart, are not separate, are not two. There isn't a 1 foot distance between you, the hearer of these words, and the hearing of these words and these words themselves. There isn't even 1 inch distance between you, the hearer of these words, consciousness that hears these words, the awareness, and the perceived form, which in this case, as we're talking about hearing, meaning the words and the hearing, which are one. There is no hearing of words, because we're talking about words without the words, so the words and the hearing of the words are one. And you, the consciousness that hears these words, they aren't 1 inch apart, not even 1/4 of an inch apart. So, yes, you are the consciousness that hears these words, and yet the form, what we refer to as form, is made out of your very hearing, your very consciousness, your very awareness, the awareness that you are.
Yeah, I get a little, because I'm trying to ask myself, who I am, and I know that anything that I can see or have or hear or think is not me, and then the mind wants to say, well,
who does? See, there is an assumption, in your question, in your very thinking, that there is a separate who, there's some sort of thing that you refer to as who am I? There is an assumption, a subtle assumption, that there is something besides just the direct awareness right here, right now, that perceives this in the openness, besides the openness of hearing, of being. There is an assumption that there is some sort of higher reality that I am, that is hearing this lower reality or this other reality. There's that subtle assumption which just comes from many, many years of conditioning that there is a higher self and a lower self, or that there is a me self that inhabits this space, which is still like a sense of some me, some I. So in the answer to your question, who am I, is the questioner of this question, the poser of this question is itself asking, what am I?
yeah,
You can't. It's like it's as if you're stepping away from you, the poser of this question, to pause somewhere else. There's some question about what you are, but the poser of the question is posing that very question himself.
Yeah, so it almost separates.
So the answer is sometimes you hear the answer is in the question itself. In the very question, who am I? The poser of that question is already there, asking that question, and the answer is the poser of the question is the answer of the question. The questioner, to put it this way, is the answer to your question. You are the answer to your question. You already are. You already are the answer to your question. Yes.
Well, that's what happens. Even the thoughts come up. That thought comes up that I am that question. Yeah. But and I guess it also is the reason why I don't ever see my thoughts. I always see my thoughts after they happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever see them as they happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I always see my thoughts after they happen. I always say I have a reaction. I always see that after the reaction. I don't see the reaction as it's happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was the other two parts of that.
Mm-hmm. So, a reaction is an action with a me with a me belief in it. So a reaction is consciousness playing the dualistic game. You know, from the absolute, from the non-dual realization that there is really, we talk sometimes of action versus a reaction. It's even the absence of both action and reaction. But as an interim conversation, because from the absolute, really, it's none of that happening. There isn't an action or a reaction happening. It's just peace and tranquility. Just the mirror reflecting images, but the mirror remaining unscathed by whatever appearances are reflecting in it. But as an interim conversation, there is a direct action, for example, like a thought arising. There is a direct perception of the thought. In other words, the thought never appears without its perception. Otherwise, there is no possibility of a thought without consciousness. Because there's no, be like a theoretical thought.
Mm-hmm.
So thought arises as a manifestation of consciousness, as an expression of consciousness, and there isn't a time lag between a thought and consciousness. And that applies as well to the perception right now of your hand, you know, the perception, the sensation, or just a perceiving this perception. There is not a lag between the perception and consciousness. It's at zero distance and at zero time. A reaction is a thought. It's a fresh thought that has a me. It's a me conversation, and also the bodily sensations with a me conversation. So the bodily sensations with a resistance, a struggle. For example, like fear is a bodily sensation plus, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? with what is going to happen to me, that what's going to happen to me conversation has imbued that sensation. And we've been doing that for since we're like young children. And as we're doing that, there is like a very quick merging of certain sensation gets triggered. Sometimes there are some smells that trigger some memories of your youth. You might be in a market somewhere, and there's some smell, and suddenly there is an emotion that just is triggered. Has that sort of quality where a certain sensation immediately brings with it the sense of danger, of imminent danger to you. It could be a very complex sense of danger that might be connected to many events that happen in your youth that have like traumatic, that were not loving experiences that you had. But what's happening freshly, in the reaction is that there is a trigger. I know you were expecting a raise, and you didn't. Somehow you're not even sure if the raise came. Sort of thought arises. Oh my God, what if I don't get the raise? And there is a sensation in the body with a sense of danger that arises. That's so reactions are just pure bodily sensations, like the sensation of your feet on the ground now. Of course, they're not on the feet. Mostly they're in the belly, the chest, the throat, behind the eyes, the neck, shoulders, etc. They're not at the extremities. They're not in the hands. These sorts of sensations are not in the legs or in the arms. They're more near the organs, near the vital organs. Plus a sense of danger or outrage, the sense of outrage, which is also a danger to your image. How could they do that to me? It might not be actual sense of your actual extinction, but still, how could they do that to me? From the image point of view, there is a sense of danger to the image. I don't know if I strayed away from your question.
You got it. I mean, basically, my point. The point was that I think what I'm doing, I'm separating consciousness from the imagined I.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And that's keeping it away in a way, because I'm trying to see my thoughts as they happen, but when I say I'm trying to see my thoughts, I'm making that something separate from the thoughts.
Yes, right.
And I'm making
It's
who I think I am separate from everything.
Yes. So look at it this way: that there is the personal self and the higher self, and the personal self is the higher self shining its light onto an object, onto a form. So the higher self shines its light like the sun shines its light throughout the entire cosmos. Right? So the higher self shines a light onto all forms, all objects, including the thoughts, including the I thought, including the I, the me sensation. Not just with Lee, but across the board. The sun doesn't just shine onto this forest and not onto that forest. Doesn't just shine on the forests and does not shine on the ocean. Does not shine on the forests, on the oceans, and not on the city. It shines, just shines, period. So as a metaphor, consider that consciousness, what you are, is this shining light that